Welcome to Shabbat Made Simple. Today we're going to learn about making leather clothing. As we've mentioned previously, all of the melachot of Shabbat, all of the prohibited activities on Shabbat involve creating. And we define creating as going from God's beautiful creation to our basic human needs: food, clothing, and shelter. Today we're going to learn about 7 melachot, 7 steps in the process of making leather clothing. We're going to begin from this beautiful, magnificent creature created by God Himself, and we're going to end with this jacket, magnificent as well, in 7 steps. Again, we begin with a deer created by God. And in step number 1, we're going to capture the deer. Obviously, we can't make a jacket out of him if we can't hold on to him. We refer to this as trapping. Now, as we mentioned earlier, each one of the melachot, each one of these activities, have other activities that are similar to it, even if they're not exactly the same. This one may gross you out a little bit, but imagine you're sitting and having your dinner, and suddenly a bug shows up. Now, some of you may just step on him, or some of you may be a little more humane and try and capture him and throw him out the door. Capturing on Shabbat would be prohibited. The one exception, of course, would be if there's an animal who is threatening a human being with his life, for example, a poisonous snake, in which case you're allowed to either trap it or kill it. Now that we've captured our deer, we need to go to step number 2. And that is, unfortunately, slaughtering. In order to get his skin, we're going to have to kill him. Now, similar to slaughtering, though you would not have thought of it to begin with, would be any activity that takes blood out of a living animal, including medical procedures in which you need to take blood, as well as many others. Strangely enough, though you may never think of it, could possibly be even brushing your teeth, as some people's gums bleed when their teeth are brushed. Once again, we have this magnificent animal. I'm not going to show you a picture of a dead one, but imagine that it was dead, and we need to take off its skin. So in step number 3, we're going to go from that animal to simply the skin. And that, of course, is in a process we refer to as skinning. Now that we have the animal's skin, in step number 4, as well as step number 5, as we're going to see soon, we need to make this skin into usable leather. And we do this, the first step is in a process we call tanning. In tanning, we take the skin with its hair and all the stuff on it, and we put it into these big pits that are full of all sorts of chemicals, and sometimes including dyes. And sometimes they let it sit there for up to months, maybe even 2 or 3 months, in order to make the skin usable as leather. Now, something similar to this, though you would never think of it, is pickling. Because if you think about it, it really is exactly the same. You're taking an object, and by leaving it inside of a chemical compound, in this case, the chemical is, of course, salt and perhaps vinegar and maybe some spices, we're changing the object through letting it sit there in this chemical for a long period of time. The next step in going from this hide, which is, of course, the animal skin, to ready leather, is what we refer to as smoothing. And in this process, we're going to take off all of the bumps as well as the hair that are on this leather. One of the ways that it's done is by placing the leather over a round log or some sort of round object, and using this special knife to remove the skin as well as any bumps that may be on the leather. Great, so now we have a piece of leather, but look at the shape that it's in. It's shaped sort of like an animal still. And that's certainly not going to help us for our jacket or for our boots or our shoes or whatever it is that we want to make out of it. So we're going to have to, in step number 6, we're going to mark it. We're going to show exactly how we want to cut it and where we want to cut it. Of course, you could use a pen or a marker to do this, but typically they would use, instead of a pen that leaves a permanent mark, they would use an awl. And this is a tool that makes lines in leather. And this is referred to as marking. And now in step number 7, we're going to take this marked leather and we're going to turn it into the pieces that are ready to be sewn together. And that, of course, is through cutting. Here you have a picture of an elderly gentleman using the old-fashioned methods, which really haven't changed all that much until today, cutting leather and cutting pieces in order to be ready to be used either for clothing or for shoes. So what we did today is we went from this magnificent creature created by God, and we went to these pieces of leather that are ready to be sewn together in order to make our beautiful leather jacket. The first step was trapping. The second step was slaughtering the animal. Then we skin the animal. After that, we have 2 steps of preparing the leather, tanning and smoothing. Then we have to mark the leather. And finally, cutting the leather. Now, of course, this isn't enough yet because we still don't have our jacket. In order to go from these pieces of leather to our finished product, we need to sew it. But sewing is one of the 39 processes that we've already learned elsewhere. It's a melacha that we've already categorized together with the melachot of making woven clothing. So we're not going to repeat them again as we make the leather clothing. So pretty much we've concluded here going from God's creation to our basic need, clothing, in 7 steps. Wishing you and your family and all those you love a very, very special Shabbat.